Hello YouTube and welcome to another route learning video. On today's video we're going to be taking a Northern Rail Class 142 Pacer and we're going to be driving from Carnforth to Heysham Port, and we will be calling at Lancaster, Bear Lane and Morecambe along the way. This journey is unusual in fact we have to make two reversals and change ends at both Lancaster and Morecambe. The scenario that I'm using is from Armstrong Powerhouse Scenario Pack 35, and we're driving the train to Hotel 84, which is the Leeds to Heysham Port service. The total distance of the journey will be around 14.5 miles. This is now the fourth video that I've made in the Class 142 Pacer. So the Class 142 was constructed between 1985 and 1987. A total of 96 of these trains were built, 94 are still in service with 2 trains having been scrapped. There are 2 coaches per train and they're designed more like a bus, with only 4 wheels per coach instead of the standard 8, so as a result there is no bogie, resulting in a much rougher ride than usual. The power output is 225 horsepower with a maximum speed of 75 miles per hour. Now in the cab of the Pacer I need to put the reversing handle into forward and reset the AWS self-test sequence. As you've seen, the headlights are already on, so I'm just going to turn off the driver reminder appliance and open both windows, turn on the instrument lights, and then we're ready to depart. Departing from Carnforth, the starting speed limit is 10 miles per hour, and we've got just over 6.25 miles to go to the next stop, which is Lancaster. So as you can see, I used the low power setting up to step 3 power to bring us up to 10 miles per hour, and now I've idled the power until we're able to accelerate further. We are now passing a 15 mile per hour speedboard, and we can accelerate to that just as we round this left curve just ahead. Again, I'm going to use a low power setting to bring us up to 15 miles per hour until we're able to accelerate further still. We are now joining the West Coast main line, and so the speed limit here will shortly be 110 miles per hour just as we reach this point on the right, you can see there. So I'm now going to accelerate. Although the speed limit is 110 miles per hour, the maximum permitted speed for this train is 75 miles per hour, so I've got to ensure that we don't exceed that speed. So just to say, because I'm not sure if I've mentioned it already, that this journey is part of the West Coast Main Line over Shap route. So from Carnforth to Lancaster is on the West Coast Main Line itself. And then when we reverse at Lancaster and we depart from the opposite direction towards Morecambe, we will be on the West Coast Main Line for about a mile or so until we turn off onto the Morcambe and Heysham Port branch. After I've made this video I am going to be away for a few days, so it's going to be a short while before I can get any more videos up. However, when I'm back I am planning on covering the West Coast Main Line North route from Carlisle to Glasgow Central in a Class 390 Pendolino, continuing from my previous journey on the West Coast Main Line over Shap route. And then once I've done a video to Glasgow, that opens up a lot more opportunity to make more videos with suburban journeys in and around Glasgow. Also the Edinburgh to Glasgow route, and and that will lead us on to the Scottish East Coast Main Line. In addition to that, I am planning on doing the return journey from Glasgow to Carlisle and then Carlisle to Preston in a Class 221 tilting Super Voyager. I would say that of all the trains which are available for Train Simulator, the Voyager has been the most requested train for me to use in a video. Planning on making a video covering the return journey of this route from Morcambe to Heysham Port. I'm hoping to do the return journey in a Class 101, so a first generation DMU. In fact, I'm hoping to use that a little more in the coming weeks and months and get some older DMUs onto some of the videos, just for a bit of variety rather than driving all of the same trains. Because there are only 3 modern DMUs I generally drive, which is the Class 142, 150 and 156, occasionally the 158, but I would say that the previous 3 are the ones that I've used the most. We now have an approach controlled flashing double yellow signal on the approach towards Lancaster. We will shortly have a warning for a speed limit reduction to 75 miles per hour, which won't actually affect us. And then after that we'll get the approach controlled flashing single yellow signal. The line from Morecambe has just joined us on the right. That's the line that we will be taking soon. So from this point we will be driving this section of track from Lancaster to here in a few minutes' time. Going to idle the power at the next signal, which is the approach controlled flashing single yellow you can see just ahead. I will be braking for Lancaster, where we will have a speed reduction to 40 and then 15 miles per hour at the next signal coming up. So we've just passed the 75 mile per hour speed board, and we did get a warning for a reduction to 40 miles per hour if we're going left, which we will be. We're now at the single yellow signal, so at this point I'm now going to make a step 2 brake application, which should bring our speed off about right for the 40 and the 15 mile per hour speed limits. I have just temporarily reduced the braking slightly to step 1, and now I'm reapplying again. The 40 mile per hour speed limit comes into force as we cross this point to the left, and then you'll be able to see the 15 mile per hour speed board in a moment. The speed limit is now 15 miles per hour as we reach this point just here and turn left into the rear platform at Lancaster. There's no clear stopping point here, so it's a case of trying to work out the correct place to stop. So there are 2 AWS ramps in the platform here. The first one will sound as we go over it. The second one won't, and we're going to try and aim to stop on top of the second AWS ramp. So here's the first one now. And now you can see the second one just ahead. Arrival at Lancaster. So now we've arrived at Lancaster, I need to open the doors, I need to turn on the driver's reminder appliance again, turn off the instrument panel lights, turn the headlights to tail lights so that we've got red lights on this end of the train. I'm going to increase the brake handle to the full service position and move the reversing handle to the off position and remove the master key. I also need to, I just remembered, turn off the wipers and close the windows. After this we'll go to the other end, ready to set up for the journey towards Morecambe. Now that we're in the other end of the train, I've just got to do the setup procedure. So first thing to do is put the reversing handle into the forward position, reset the AWS self-test sequence. You can see that the signal ahead is still red, so I'm not going to turn off the driver reminder appliance at this stage. I'm going to turn the headlights to the day position and I'm going to open the windows. The last thing I need to do is turn on the instrument lights, and then we're ready to depart once the signal is clear and we've been given the right of way. As you can see, the signal has cleared to a flashing double yellow approach controlled signal, so we can now depart from Lancaster. Departing Lancaster, the starting speed limit is 15 miles per hour, and we've got around 2¾ miles to go to the next stop, which is Bear Lane. So you can see at 15 miles per hour I've now idled the power to allow the train to coast until we're able to accelerate further. At this point we are now able to accelerate to 40 miles per hour. However, the speed limit will soon be dropping to 20 miles per hour as we cross onto the down line, because initially we're now on the up line. So I'm now idling the power at just over 25 miles per hour. I'm just going to apply light braking to bring our speed off in time for the point you can see just ahead. The speed limit is now 20 miles per hour, though it will shortly be going up to 110 miles per hour once we've cleared these points. So we can accelerate by the time we reach the guardrails on the bridge here, which are the two rails in the middle of the track. So I've now gone into full power to accelerate. Although the speed limit is 110 miles per hour, we do need to still remember that we're only permitted to go up to a maximum of 75. That being said, we probably won't get to 75 before we've got to slow down for turning off the West Coast Main Line in about a mile's time. We do now have an approach controlled flashing single yellow signal. This is warning us that we are turning off onto the Morecambe branch. This signal is 1 mile from the junction and there is a 25 mile per hour speed limit as we turn towards the Morecambe branch. Now that we're doing just over 50 miles per hour, I'm going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. We're going to brake for the 25 mile per hour speed limit just after we pass the next signal you can see coming up, which is displaying a single yellow aspect. Now that we've passed the signal, I'm applying the brakes to slow down for the junction coming up just ahead. I've now released the brakes and the speed limit is now 25 miles per hour. I'm going to allow the train to coast around this corner here. Just after we've rounded this left-hand corner, the speed limit will be going up to 45 miles per hour. In fact, you can see the speed board now. However, there is no point in accelerating as the speed limit is very shortly dropping down to 15 miles per hour as we approach Bear Lane Station. The 15 mile per hour speed limit is on the point following this one, which is where we will be turning left. And so I've just applied a very light step 1 brake application to ensure that we're down to 15 in time. Now that we're at 15 miles per hour, I'm just going to leave the power in idle and allow the train to coast into the station. We do need to stop here right at the end of the platform. Unfortunately, there is a rather loud crossing here which can get slightly annoying, but unfortunately I can't do anything about that. It seems that since I was practicing this journey we can't actually hear the crossing very well at the minute, which is not a bad thing, I don't think. So departing from Bear Lane, the starting speed limit is 40 miles per hour and we've got just under 1.5 miles to go to the next stop, which is Morecambe. Now that we've reached 40 miles per hour, I've gone down to step 2 of power, which should maintain us around this speed. We're now passing a fixed distance signal board, which means treat the next signal as red unless we can see otherwise. And the fixed distance signal boards are half a mile from the next speed limit, which is a speed drop down to 15 miles per hour. I'm now going to idle the power, and as we enter this right hand curve just here, I'm going to make a step 2 brake application, which should bring our speed off about right. I was just coming in slightly too quick there, I misjudged the distance. So I made a slightly harder brake application than originally planned, but we got down to 15 in time. For a brief moment here we are going downhill on a gradient of 1 in 139, which means that the train will have the tendency to accelerate slightly. However, the gradient has now levelled out, so I did make just a very brief step 1 brake application, just to ensure that we didn't break the speed limit. You can now see Morecambe station just coming up. So as you can see, I'm just allowing the train to coast into the station. We don't need any power at this point. As the entrance to the station is at the other end of the platform, I am going to aim to stop at the end of the platform here. Now that we've arrived at Morecambe, once again I need to sort out this end of the train, so I'm going to close the windows. I'm going to change the headlights to the tail light position. I'm going to move the brake handle to the full service position. I'm going to turn on the driver reminder appliance, turn off the instrument lights, and move the reversing handle all the way to the off position, and remove the master key. And now we need to change ends, ready to depart for Heysham Port. Now back at the other end of the train, we need to do the setup procedure all over again. So I'm now going to turn on the instrument lights. I'm going to move the reversing handle to forward, reset the AWS self-test sequence. And at this point I'm going to open the windows, put the headlights into the day position, and we're now ready to depart once we've got clearance. Departing from Morecambe, the starting speed limit is 15 miles per hour, and we've got around 4¼ miles to go to the next stop, and final stop, which is Heysham Port. As you can see, I have now idled the power at 15 to allow the train to coast. In a moment we will need to stop at a signal where there's a man standing to collect the token for the single line section through to Heysham. So first we will pass the ground signal you can see just coming up with the 2 white lights on it, and then at the next signal, which is currently red but will turn green just before we get to it, that's where we need to stop to pick up the token for the single line section. Now that we've stopped to collect the token, I'm going to try and wait around 10 to 15 seconds. Normally I would use the HUD to see when I'm clear to depart. Unfortunately I can't do it on this occasion for obvious reasons with recording a video. Okay, that was easier than I thought because the game actually notified me that we had collected the token. So departing from the token stopping point, the starting speed limit is still 15 miles per hour. And so I'm accelerating up to that now, and very shortly I'm going to reduce the power completely and move it up to step 1. It appeared that we were still accelerating slightly there in step 1, so I've just idled the power once again. As we go around this curve, we are now going up on a gradient of 1 in 114, and a step 1 power application should maintain us at around 15 miles per hour. However, there will shortly be a change in gradient from up 1 in 114 to down 1 in 89, at which point we are going to need to use the brakes to control our speed. You can see the gradient is now changing, so I'm just making a light step 1 brake application to bring our speed off a little bit. And now our speed is around 12 miles per hour. I've released the brakes and will allow the train to gradually coast back up towards 15 and then keep repeating the process with the brakes. The AWS ramp that just went off is one that we can ignore, and in fact in a moment we will see a trackside sign which isn't seen on too many routes, which indicates that the AWS ramp is one that we can ignore. It looks like a Scottish flag. It's a square shaped sign with a blue background and a white cross going over it. And so on any single track section where you see that sign, you then know that you can ignore the previous AWS warning you just had. You can now see that board on the left there. Just before we reach the new speed limit, which is 40 miles per hour. And in fact, because we're now doing around 12, I'm going to go straight into full power. As by the time we're at 15, the rear of the train will have cleared the speed board. One thing you will notice on the Heysham Port branch of this route more than most is that the track is an awful lot bouncier. I'm guessing that's due to poor maintenance in reality, and it's been well simulated within Train Simulator. In fact, along this route there is only one passenger train a day which serves Heysham Port Station, which for the UK is certainly a very, very poor railway service. As you can see, I have now idled the power at 40 to see what happens with our speed. We are gradually going to need to increase power along here to ensure that we don't lose too much speed. As you can see, I am slowly stepping up the power handle as I'm watching our speed falling off. I don't want to put it up too high because I don't want to accelerate beyond the speed limit, but we also don't want to lose too much speed, so we're now into step 4 of power, and we're doing 35 miles per hour, and it looks like the speed is still going down slightly, so I'm going to increase to step 5 of power in the hopes that this will stop us from slowing down any further. At this whistle board now coming up on the left, we've got just over 2 miles to go to Heysham Port. We are now in step 6 of power as we were still losing too much speed. It looks like that is bringing our speed back up a little. As we get towards Heysham Port, we will have some downhill gradients, which means we will need to use the brakes to control our speed. The gradient goes to as steep as down 1 in 39, though initially it is down 1 in 76. Gradient is now changing to a more downhill gradient, so I am about to idle the power and allow the train to continue to coast. We will shortly be needing to brake for the next and final speed limit, which is a reduction down to 20 miles per hour shortly before we reach Heysham Port. So as you can see, I've now idled the power to allow the train to coast, and I'm going to keep a close eye on our speed. The braking point for the upcoming 20 mile per hour speed restriction will be at a fixed distance signal board, which will be coming up very shortly. And at this bridge here, with the 2 overhead pylons directly in front of us for the national grid, that means that we're a quarter of a mile from the speed reduction to 20 miles per hour. And here is the fixed distance signal board, so at this point I'm now making a step 2 brake application to bring our speed off down to 20 miles per hour, and in fact I'm going to release the brakes slightly after we've reached 20 miles per hour. So as we get down more towards 15 due to the downhill section that we are now on. So we are now on the down 1 in 76 gradient, and we will shortly be on the down 1 in 39 gradient as we turn towards the station here at Heysham Port. And now using the brakes for speed control as we quickly got back up to 20 miles per hour. You can now see the platform coming up just on the left. I'm just going to slow us down now to 15 miles per hour. As you can see, the station here is the end of the line, so we do need to stop at the buffers here. I'll stop just slightly before them to ensure that we don't hit them, which is often easy to do in this game. Here we are, arrival at Heysham Port. Thank you very much for watching, and I really hope that you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget that you can find me on Facebook under PTG Rail. The link for this will be in the description of the video. And also, if you really do value my work and you'd like to become a patron of this channel, then please do visit my Patreon page for more information. Again, the link for that will be in the description of the video. Again, thank you for watching.